we always saw ourselves as people that would just move into a ready-made house,
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
far less complicated.
Yeah.
The opportunity arose, it was quite circumstantial. There was a particular property that we got wind of that we had to act quickly on. What was driving us was the neighbourhood and wanting to actually stay in that neighbourhood, and in order to make that happen, we had to start the campaign for the house we were living in and quickly acquire the knockdown rebuild site and set all that into motion. And it's an incredibly daunting process to have to size all that up, and we had to act quickly, as I mentioned, because there were settlement dates at both ends of those actions, so it was challenging. We wouldn't really have known where to start if we hadn't spoken to someone of Marvin's calibre. Just being able to navigate the process and understand the steps involved. So we went from a pretty simple and straightforward one property to having to sell that property, settle for that, and then quickly purchase the other property, and then arrange bridging finance.
I was going to say, I think you had a bridging
which
element,
was incredibly complex from our perspective, having never undertaken that sort of arrangement with a bank. And beyond that, then having to figure out what a building loan entailed, what were the differences of that. So we had no idea where to start or what that process would involve, and having Marvin and his team help us through what was essentially a real minefield of paperwork and regulations and a lot of complexities that I think your average person can't really have a confident understanding of. Yeah, to have to marshal all of those moving parts at the same time. There's a lot of logistical work that had to go into it from a paperwork perspective, but also dealing with the relevant parties, be it real estate agents or conveyancing and all of that sort of stuff. So having like a go-to or a reference point to bounce off questions and to figure out what the next steps were and understand the journey. That's really, I think, where we got a lot of value out of having someone like Marvin and the rest of his team assist us. And on top of the advantage of having all of the options in front of you, if you did end up having to deal exclusively with a bank, the likelihood of you being able to have the same level of care and follow-up as you would with a broker, I just can't see that happening to the same extent. That's not to say that some banks wouldn't, and you would have people involved in that, but having someone, the other important thing is having someone that's local, that understands the particular conditions that you're in, and so that to us is important, or was important. I think we were a bit fortunate to really have someone of Marvin's prowess and organisational ability and his team to really ensure that we met a lot of the deadlines that we had to meet to try and get settlement and things over the line. I struggled to think how we could have done it without having that level of expertise driving it, and just being pretty much always on call to answer questions, be it email or over the phone. So I think having that peace of mind and being able to bounce ideas off someone that knows the industry and understands the process and what the next steps are, and explain them in layman's terms as well, is a really important thing for prospective borrowers, even if it's a simple mortgage or through to something as complex as what we undertook. I think it's incumbent on yourselves to be on top of the process as much as you can be, and to really involve yourself and do all the due diligence that you can to understand all aspects of the build and to be on top of them. I'd probably add that there's so many different volume builders out there, or builders, that I think you've got to let the style of floor plan and let that drive the decision that you make in the end. Just be wary of your budgets blowing out, which is another tricky thing to have to deal with when you're talking to a mortgage broker, because it's hard to anticipate what you might need to borrow. So that's another tricky part, I guess. Potentially only 3 or 4 months away from moving in, and that's a relief, because we're living in a shoebox at the moment, and having to pay rent and a mortgage at the same time isn't exactly ideal, but it's part of the process, and to get where we want to be, and having our own family home that we've designed ourselves, and that have seen from the very beginning to where it is now. That's been incredibly rewarding and enriching to get to that point